Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another Ultimate Creative Chat. We are so honored today to have with us Dr. Sandra Ingram. We are very happy to have you here, Dr. Sandra. And she is, if you do not know, a life success and relationship coach. And she has lots of years of experience in this area. She's been helping women for years in the areas of their lives, reaching success in their lives, and then having good relationships, having successful relationships. So, thank you so very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Today we are going to be talking about intervention. Intervention for effective communication. And if it's one thing to communicate, but if it's not effective communication, then you may as well have not said anything at all, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, and that's something that we both work in the
Yeah.
communication field. She's
Yeah.
not directly in the communication field, but she knows how important that is
Yeah.
for us to have effective communication. So, tell us, please, a little bit about yourself and how you've gotten to where you are now and what you do for women.
Okay. Once again, thank you so much for having me. But
Yes.
I am a entrepreneur. I have an entrepreneur spirit and has always wanted to help empower women.
Mm.
And my mother named me Sandra, and I found out Sandra means helper.
Mm.
So from the beginning, I think that is my assignment here to help
Okay.
women to mature and become the best that they can be. And I am an ordained minister and have been one for over 30 years. So I've talked to many, many women. And I've
Mm.
also worked and retired. And so I understand the job communication issues. And I've been married for 38 years, 39
Okay.
in May. So I
All right.
understand relationship communications issues. So what we have to understand is that communication is across the board, but sometimes we can be better communicators at work than we are at home.
Okay, that
And
is
we
true.
need, yes, and we need to understand why that is so. And so, what we try to do is help women to understand, and men too, if they would like to, because I do have some men, to understand that until you know who you are, you cannot expect others to know who you are.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, and so hence the term intervention. We need
Yes.
to get to know ourselves a little more is
Yes.
what it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. So when I was thinking about it and I was writing the book, and people would always say, we need interventions. And I said, no, we need interventions. And so I sort of coined that little phrase. And so what
Mm,
that means is, like I said, if you don't all know you, you can't expect others to. And sometimes we will even tell people, don't you know what I mean? Don't
mhm,
you understand? But we don't even know what we mean.
yeah,
And if you're asked to explain it, we go like, well, you know. So what is
right.
yes? So what is the cause of that? And one thing we have to understand is how you communicate is absolutely determined by your culture and your paradigm. And you have to really work hard to change
Mm,
those things. And that's where the intervention comes. Because if you think about it, things that someone said to you when you were a child, some of those stuck
yes.
and they can still hurt you today if you think about it. A negative thought, a negative word that someone says. So, how do we
Yes.
learn to communicate and get past those points? I will tell you, my mom, she's one of the wisest people in the world. And she said
Mm,
to me one day, she said, we're talking and we're at this impasse. And she goes, you know what? From my mouth to your ear is a long way. That
mm,
what that means is what I say. may be one thing in my world, but when it gets to your world, it takes on a whole new connotation. And we can
Mhm.
twist that to fit our paradigm. So that's what intervention is about. Is about if I know that my communication when I was growing up was arguing or fussing or people slamming the door and walking out, then
Mm.
that's what I'm gonna think I need to do. That's my communication.
This Ultimate Creative Chat is sponsored by Dr. Sandra Ingram, Life Coach. Life is pretty good, but your best days are just ahead. Are you constantly arguing with your friends and family? Earning less money than you know you're worth? Don't let your joy be a hostage to disappointment. Talk to Dr. Sandra Ingram, a certified dream building coach who's helped women achieve success in relationships, health, and time and money freedom. It's a career she's enjoyed for over 30 years. Choose individual or group coaching to get on the road to success. Grow your communication skills, confidence, relationships, balance, time management, and professional success. Head to www.drsandraingram.com and let Dr. Sandra Ingram breathe life into your dreams. Follow Dr. Sandra Ingram on Facebook. Back to the show.
And so in order to
Okay.
yes, so I have to recognize number one, uh, why am I acting the way I do?
Mm.
What am I contributing? It's not always the other person. Sometimes we have to stop. And and I tell people that I talk with, I say, you know what? Just because something is right in your world doesn't mean it's wrong in somebody else's. It's just different.
Absolutely.
It's just different.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
we have to learn to accept the differences and learn how to listen. And that's another part of we have to learn because
Hmm.
we're not brought up to learn how to listen. We're just learn how to hear and respond. We're in flight and
Now
fight
that's
mode.
true.
And that's what we do. And so
Yes.
learning how to listen and to listen actively. If I'm talking to
Mm.
you or you are talking to me, and in my world, I'm making my grocery list, or I am thinking of my rebuttals that I'm going to say to everything you're saying. That's why people can't interrupt.
Yes.
Wait, what? Because they want to get their point across. So knowing who you are, why can't you get your point across? Because I can tell you about me when I was a little girl. It was children should be seen and not heard. That was in me. So when it came to
Mhm.
communicating, that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Just be seen,
Mhm.
not heard. To take my
Yes.
feelings, bottle them up, and take them someplace else. But don't speak it because that's not what we
Right.
do. So, we have to search back. So you search back and you can like, why do I respond that way? And a good way to kind of find out the way you communicate, the way you do, is ask people around you, your cousins, your aunties, your grandparents, your friends. When you came to my house, how did we talk? And they'll say, like, well, y'all never talk. And you was like, really?
Mhm.
I thought we were, but we weren't. And so you have to work at getting the right tools and the resources so you can, number one, know who you are. When you find out who you
Mm.
are, what can you do to your
Okay.
mindset to try to flip that? Yes.
Yes. Oh, you are dropping lots of nuggets here and things that I think we can all agree are applicable to us. We all
Yes.
grow up a particular way. We
Yes.
have different households and ways of
Yes.
doing things, but there are some
Yes.
commonalities,
Yes.
especially when you look at the Black community.
That's right. Yes.
Um, there are some things that we have been told over the years. Again,
Mhm.
children should be seen and not heard,
Yes.
which can make people think, I don't need to have an opinion or I don't need
Right.
to share it.
Absolutely.
And then they're not
Right.
given a healthy outlet for
Mhm.
sharing it. They don't
Right.
begin to journal or learn to communicate with people that
Mhm.
they know they can talk to. They just may shut
Right.
down altogether.
Right.
So that's not healthy. And
That's right.
it does take some work going
Yes.
inside, being
Yes.
introspective and retrospective,
Yes.
and really thinking about why you do the things you
Yes.
do.
Yes.
I've done a
Um,
lot of that recently, and
good.
I have begun to understand myself a lot
Yes.
better, and
Yes.
it's actually helped me with my communication with my
Yes.
children and
Yes.
expressing to them
Yes.
why I do things the way that I do and what I want them to do as a result, because
Yes.
I don't want them to do things the way I've always done them, you know?
Absolutely. Yes.
I think when we learn some things about ourselves, we need to
Mhm.
course correct
Yes.
with our children and those around
Mhm.
us and say,
Mhm.
hey, especially to our children because we
Yes.
impact them directly.
Right.
Um, I want you to
Mhm.
have a voice, be respectful,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you need to understand that
Yes.
you have thoughts. I
Yes.
understand that you have
Mhm.
thoughts, and we need to be able to talk about them
Mhm.
in a way that is healthy and is
Yeah.
actually productive.
Right. And that's not always easy to do.
No.
It takes because even when we think about our children, and there's another method that I'll be teaching on communication that I learned from New Zealand, and it teaches you that we're all four, we communicate four different ways. First, you understand the way you communicate, and then I'll understand by how you talk and the words you use, how you communicate. Then I'll know if you are this way. I know what words to say to you so you can hear me.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, because some people you can talk to and you could be, and they will never ever hear you because you're not
Mhm.
talking their language. You're not
Yes.
talking the words that they want to hear. So, and
Mm.
it's not that you're not, it's not a matter of being right or wrong. It's just a matter of the way they communicate is very different from the way. So you have to understand that this is a type, whatever, and the buzzwords they want to hear are this, and this. So when they hear those words, even if they don't
Okay.
like what you're saying, they're going to do this. They're going to perk up. They're going to
Yeah.
listen, yeah, to what you're saying. And so in
Yes.
order to, we have to get by things by, like I talked about, we have to learn how to reset our minds. And
Mm.
it takes a minute to reset, because some people are, even though they know they want to change, they don't have that confidence in themselves to
Yes.
speak up. They don't know how to do it, because the number one thing I find out that women, we don't like confrontation and we don't like rejection.
Mhm. No, this is true. This
So
is
if
true.
we're so if we're running up against those two things, we're going to go in and not
Mhm.
out, because we don't have the tools to know how to navigate that. And we have
Yes.
to learn to live, this little phrase, we have to learn to live by design and not default. So
Mhm.
what does that mean? Is you design how you're going to act when somebody comes and says something negative, and you're not going to default to the old, I'm just going to cuss them out, or I'm just going to roll my eyes, or just not going to say nothing. So you have to
Yes.
consciously in your mind have a plan, so if
Mm.
this happens, this is what I'm going to do. Because if you don't, we will default to what we were brought up with. We would default to what grandma said. We'll default to what mama said. We'll default back to that.
Yes.
So it takes a little bit of time to
Mhm.
understand and learn how to reset our minds. But it can be done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
So let me ask you, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The first being in business communication, in
Hmm.
communicating with our teams on the
Yes.
staff, and
Yes.
also with those out in the community that we are serving,
Yes.
with our
Hmm.
clients, customers, whoever
Yes.
may see
Hmm.
messaging from us.
Right.
How does this effective communication translate over to that world where we're not not dealing with relationships,
Right.
like romantic
Yeah.
relationships or
Right.
familial relationships,
Hmm.
but
Yes.
professional
Yes.
relationships.
And that's an also awful good question. Thank you. So what do we do when you're professional? Like we have to go back to that number one thing. And I want to say a nugget: hearing is not listening, and knowing is not doing.
Mm,
Okay, so
mm,
because we
yeah.
can know what to do with your team,
Mm-hmm.
and you sit around and you're having a meeting, and you know what's in your mind that you are projecting, but some people just won't get it,
Right.
and you're going like, that is not what I said. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. I mean, you might not say it out loud, but you're going to be, oh my God, they just so far off the track. Where did they get that
Right.
from? Well, they got it from their background. They got it from their
Mm.
culture. They're not doing anything against you. It's just what they interpreted what you said. So what you can do is ask people to, even if it's not in the meeting, when you get through, can everybody kind of give me a summary of what we talked about today?
Mm. Okay.
Or in the meeting, does anybody want to recap what we did today? And if they want, and just if people don't like to be embarrassed, so just have them to write it down on a sheet. When at the meeting, give them out and say at the end, I no names on it, no nothing. I just need for you to jot down what you thought this meeting was about today, and just say, and was it helpful?
Okay.
And let them do it that way. And then when you get those back, you will see um, what was understood, what was misunderstood. So
Mhm.
then when you have your next meeting, you don't say anything, you just address it, you just do a redo. You hit the reset button
Okay.
and you do a redo. But that is how you can learn how to take this into the the workforce. And I will tell you, the other thing you have to learn to do is um, and the only thing I can call it is lip lock dispensation. You're gonna have to learn to listen and just shut up.
Yes. There we go.
You gotta learn to listen and just, it doesn't
That can
matter
do a
if you're
whole lot.
right, it doesn't matter if you're wrong, it has nothing to do with that. Let them blow off the steam. Maybe they'll get to where they need to go. But we have to learn to listen because they have a right,
Mhm. Yeah.
but they do not have the right to be disrespectful
Mhm.
or anything like that. But everyone has the right to express their opinion. I had a lady that I used to work with, that she worked for me, and she would say, and I would ask her to do something. She said, and I would say, well, why didn't you do it? She said, well, in my mind.
Right. That's how she saw the
That's how.
instructions.
And she never would get beyond in my mind. But
Mhm.
people have to want to change. And trust me, everybody's not going to get on board. But what
Yeah.
you'll want to is the majority on board. And then you can work with that. But that's how I would translate it. And that's how I translated it. When I had people working for me and I was in the business world and I had a business, and even if I had no clue of what they were talking about and don't even know how they got off the track, but this body language, you lean
Mhm.
forward, you listen, and you shake your head, you just go, mm-hmm,
Mm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. People want to know they're being heard, whether
Yes.
you understand them or not. So that's,
Very good point.
yes,
Yeah, I think we all can appreciate when we feel like somebody is actually listening to
yes,
what we're taking the time
yes,
and the breath to
that's
say.
right, that's right,
Sometimes the strength, the courage to say some harsh
yes,
things or
yes,
some things that we know people may misunderstand.
absolutely,
But if you just give me a second to get
mm-hmm.
it out,
Yes,
you'll understand what I'm what
yes,
I'm saying. So
yes,
very true.
absolutely, yes.
Well, what are some things that we can do quickly
Mhm.
to actually do the work on the inside so that
Yes.
we understand where our thought processes come from?
Okay. A lot of people don't do this, but in order to understand you, the first thing you have to learn to do is be honest. with who you
Mm,
are and who you are not.
okay.
So when you're honest, you don't think of yourselves how other people see you and perceive you, but you think of your real self. And
Mhm.
most of us, excuse me, don't let people see the real us
Mhm.
because we're vulnerable
Right.
and we don't want to do that. So, but when you're by yourself, write down, you know, I know I'm short with people. Even though you may not be, I know I have a bad, I know my face can tell everybody how I'm feeling. I need to work on my face.
Uh-huh.
you know, so you begin to write down, and it's not like you're being negative about yourself, but you're just being realistic about who you really are. And
Mm,
none of us are perfect little wonderful people all the time.
right.
It's just not true. And so it takes that hard look at
Mm,
you. And then I always like to tell people to go back and try to, whatever that emotion is, tie it to a memory, because it's tied to a memory somewhere.
mhm.
So if you can go back and tie that to a memory and break the memory and say, oh, that's where they can, oh, well, now I know where that came from. I'm not going to do that no more. Gotcha.
Yes.
And so trying to cut the ties to the memories that we have, that culture that we have, that paradigm that we have, but really journaling, writing it down,
Mhm.
talking it out, and I know people like to journal, but I would even say record it. You need to record yourself,
Okay.
because when you record yourself, you hear things in your voice that you can't write.
Mm.
Now, if I'm trying to overcome a memory and get past something, and I'm writing it down, but when I'm recording, I'm going like, well, you know what? And I start to crack up, and I start to get teary.
Right.
That you can't write that on a sheet of paper.
Uh-huh.
But
That's a great point.
yes, so that gets to the inside of you, because when it's inner reflection, it goes deep. And
Mhm.
even when I'm coaching people, and I say, well, I come with a disclaimer, and that is, we're going to go deep, and you're not going to like some of the things that come out. But
Mm.
you can never heal a wound if you don't let it heal. You have to let it get the air. And no, and what we do is we get a wound and we just keep taking the scab off. And then it's got to heal over and over. And then we take the scab off. We won't let it heal all the way, because the, that we take the scab off, and we don't mean to, but when it get to that difficult part, we're going to take it off, because we don't want the
Mm.
conversation. And, and we don't want that rejection. But it's okay to hurt for a few minutes. And once we realize this, you cannot put off hurt. It's either going to hurt today or it's going to hurt tomorrow.
Yes.
And so,
Absolutely.
yes, so you just have to choose which you want to do. But
Mm.
understanding that it's not going to go away, and everything that's left in the dark sooner or later will come out in the light, but it'll come out in an unpleasant circumstance. It may come out when you're not even talking about whatever you're supposed to be talking about.
Yes.
And you're trying to communicate with you. But that's how I try to help people to go in, with recording and listening to yourself, and with journaling. And if you have a mentor or someone that can be truthful with you,
Mhm.
we all have people in our lives, but if the people in your lives only tell you what you want to hear, they're not your people.
Mm. Ain't that the truth?
You need
You
real
need
people
new
to say,
people.
oh, no, 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 stop. That was wrong. I know what they did, but that was wrong. That helps you
Yeah.
to heal. Because
Yes.
because you know what? Some things we do, we don't even realize it. We don't
Yeah.
realize that what we're doing is saying, it sounded like that. And somebody said, "Oh, you were sharp." I mean, I was like, "I was sharp, really?" Because in my world, it wasn't sharp.
Yeah.
So that's how I try to help people to work through some things like that. But they're tools that you can use to
Awesome.
help you. Yes.
Amazing. Well, you mentioned a book a little earlier.
Yes.
What's the name of your book and how can people find it?
Yes. Talk more,
Oh.
fight less. And so in this book, it talks
Awesome.
about how to communicate. Um, and how to communicate, number one, the first thing we have to understand is, do you want to communicate? I don't care if you're at work or you're at home or with your family or in a relationship. You have the one thing: do you want it? And if you want to move forward
Mm,
in communication, are you willing to take the steps to do it? Because I want you to know, everybody and nobody, you may be on this road starting out by yourself, and people go like, well, if I got to do it, why I got to do it by myself? I mean, you're
mhm.
50% of the way out.
Right.
You have the way out. So if you start, and if you do it, other people will follow you. But it takes time. People will recognize a change. They may not never
Mhm.
say nothing for a bit because they want to stand back and see if it's going to be real or lasting.
Mm.
But people will recognize change in you, and they will come back. And so in the book talks about the different styles of communicate, how we communicate. It talks about um, things like unforgiveness and what part that plays, whether it's the
Mm.
boss at work because you didn't get the promotion, and
Mhm.
now everything is tainted because you're not forgiving him. And
Okay.
yeah, and it colors everything you see. And we talked about blame and the impact of blame. And blame is just you really wanting control and making somebody else responsible for what go wrong in your life and you don't. That's blame.
Mm.
And so we try to cover that in your relationships to see how it affects it, and then give you some tools, the 5 communication styles, and you figure out what your communication style is, how you communicate, and then you can see how some others communicate also.
Okay.
So yeah, so those are, and of course it's about mind reset, and we talked about that a little bit. So
Mhm.
several different topics that sort of just bring you in holistically
Right.
to,
Awesome.
yes, I tell you, Alan Greenspan had a quote that said, I know you thought you heard what I said, but what you heard was not what I meant. And that's what
Mhm.
and that's what
Yeah.
we are trying to get past, so that we can talk more,
Okay.
fight less. And you know what? People think about fighting as a physical fight. No, no, we fight with this right here.
Mhm.
We fight with our mind.
Yes.
Yes,
Very true.
we fight with our mind. So we need to learn how to control all aspects of our communication styles. Because I think everybody wants to communicate effectively. Because number one, everybody wants to
Yes.
hear, but most of all, everybody wants to be heard.
Yes. Very true. Everybody wants to be heard and understood. Hear me
Yes,
good.
yes,
Yes. Well,
absolutely.
where can we find your book and how can people connect with you online?
Yes, so the book is on Amazon. So you can order it off of Amazon. And I do have a Facebook. So Sandra
Okay.
Ingram. So you can, I have also a website, dringramlifecoach.com, that you can reach me out also. Okay.
Okay. Awesome. And are you taking new clients right now? Somebody may
Yes,
be interested. Okay.
yes. Absolutely. We're just starting up. Of course, this is the first of the year, so yes, we are starting with new clients. So, if anybody is interested, absolutely, just drop me a line, and we can set you up.
Okay. Well, this has been a very good and productive conversation. I think y'all have a lot to think about, and we have some homework to do to go back and do that inner work
Yes,
so
yes,
that we can be very
yes,
effective communicators.
yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ingram, for being on the Ultimate Creative Chat today. We
Thank you.
really appreciate you. Yes. All right. And you all stay tuned for more from Ultimate Creative.
Get in touch today to find out how you can become an Ultimate Creative Chat sponsor.